Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War II, World at War. It is August of 1940, and we have taken a desperate gamble in an effort to save France. We have withdrawn from the Maginot Line, we have withdrawn west, and we have formed a new blob of soldiers in and around Paris, with an army in Paris itself. Our hope is that that allows us to withstand the Axis attack in Paris or in France through to the month of September, so that maybe we can hang on one more month before the enemy crushes us. Now, we do know that means that the Germans are going to wow, I can't speak today. They're going to surge across the French border without resistance, but the hope is that these soldiers here along the border of France can't cover enough ground to attack Paris itself, and that the only troops that can attack Paris itself have, in this case, a special forces unit in around Amiens, and then also 2 corps of infantry in front of Paris before they even get to the army stationed at Paris. So the hope is that the Germans simply can't cover the ground and deal with the number of soldiers to their front prior to actually attacking the capital. In the south, the Italians have taken Lyon, and they have also threatened Marseille as well, but I think they're probably too far away to seriously threaten Paris, although someone did mention in the comments the other day an interesting, perhaps gamey strategy would be to leave the Italian border unguarded and to allow the Italians to take Paris, which would deny the Germans a huge chunk of income and give it to the far less efficient and advanced Italians. That's the situation in France. In North Africa, we have surrounded Tobruk, we have blockaded the port, and we have an army attacking there. It remains to be seen if we will actually be able to reduce the city and take it, but if we can, I think that triggers the development of the Africa Corps. Meanwhile, in Ethiopia, we've destroyed one of the Italian garrisons near Gondor, or Gondar, however you pronounce that, and we are now in the process of beginning to reduce the capital city of Addis Ababa before we eventually move on to taking out the Italian core unit near Mogadishu and shifting the bulk of our troops further north. We have also begun to transfer some of our South African forces away, so we have one unit here that's not fully strength, and we also have a headquarter unit here, but we've also moved, I think this is an army, or maybe it's a corps, the 2nd South Africa has begun moving via transport toward the European theater. In China, India, by the way, is still not in the fight. In China, the Japanese have been dealt a couple of blows. Last turn, we destroyed an entire Japanese army here in front of Changsha, and that was a great success for us. I'm going to move this guy here. And that was a great success for us. We've also continued to deal serious blows to the 3rd Japanese Corps in front of Pakoi, and our hope is that maybe we will be able to reduce that in the coming turns. We continue to research infantry technology level 1, although we're not quite there yet, and we're in the process of building our own Maginot Line of sorts to the north of Yichang in China as we speak. Our hope is to build that defensive line so that as the Japanese eventually drive forward and push us out of Changsha and advance toward Yichang, we can fall back a couple of hexes behind a new line of fortifications that is just as strong as the current line. In the north, we've destroyed, I think, one Japanese army as well near Paotao, and we now have a reasonably strong defensive position in front of Peking, where the Japanese have a couple of armies located. That's the situation in China. The Americans, we haven't really done much other than spend a bunch of money on research, so there's that. The Soviets, we've pulled some of our troops that were bordering the Japanese in Manchuria west, and we've extended that defensive line from the south near Kherson along the coast of the Black Sea, north as far as Polotisk, although we still need another half dozen or so units to finish this defensive line. And then, frankly, it would be ideal if we had engineers here that we could use to actually build fortifications here and build a incredibly long Maginot Line of sorts, but I just don't have the money to do that. We've also pulled the British troops out of France, so that's going to hurt the French national morale and make them more likely to surrender. But nonetheless, we pulled 2 British corps out of France. We've pulled all the air units out of France. We just developed a new air unit here, so we have 3 fighter units in Britain, as well as a tactical bomber unit and a strategic bomber unit. We also just signed the basis for destroyers agreement for the British, which reduces our Caribbean income slightly, but actually gives us something like 5 or 6 new destroyers that will help us, which are going to be important because we've lost a lot of naval units in battles against the Italian Navy in the Mediterranean. Although we've destroyed, I think, 2 Italian battleships now. We've really crippled the Italian fleet. They do still have at least 1 destroyer, and they have, I think, 2 to 3 submarines and 1 other unit somewhere. It's probably a heavy cruiser or something to that effect. But the Italian Navy's been pretty badly battered, although then again, so has the British Mediterranean fleet. And that's the situation right now as we enter late August of 1940. We've already moved our units, so now we're just going to go ahead and sit back and see what happens when the AI starts their turn. And away we go. Bulldog is hit by rough seas, so take a little damage there. Ramon Mercader assassinates Leon Trotsky in Mexico. Okay. UK develops spying and intelligence level 1. China develops infantry units level 1. Okay, that's very important. Scientists report progress in long-range aircraft for the Indians. And that's the end of the turn. That development of level 1 infantry is critical for China. The hope is that the Japanese don't attack too aggressively this turn, so we can focus the bulk of Chinese income on overhauling their soldiers to get to level 1 infantry technology, which will really help narrow the gap a bit with the actual Chinese forces there. Meanwhile, you can see Japanese carriers continue to bomb. That French battleship's taking some damage. German heavy cruisers. Italian submarines. More submarines. These are some heavy attacks. They finally hit us after 2 carriers pounded Pao Tao. All right, so some naval movements around. Germans are operationally moving some armies away from the French border. That's interesting. Some reinforcements in North Africa at Pao Tao. They're moving the submarines into port in Norway. Tactical bombers are hitting various targets here in France. All right, and they're okay. So they are hitting some of our naval assets, which is interesting. I mean, I'd prefer they don't, but it at least delays the fall of France, so there's one positive there. Meanwhile, the Japanese carriers continue to hit various targets in China. The German armor continues to move across the area of northern France. They've just taken Amiens. The armor is flanking toward Paris, but again, I think our strategy is working, where even though they're advancing, they're not going to advance quickly enough to actually take Paris this turn. They are going to destroy some of those units in front of Paris, perhaps, but I'm hoping that they can't actually destroy Paris itself. You can see there they destroyed the unit to the flank of Paris to the left. They destroyed the unit to the front of Paris in the front, but they didn't actually destroy the unit in Paris itself. Meanwhile, the Japanese are launching some attacks against some fortified Chinese units, badly depleting some of them. We'll see if they are able to overwhelm them or not. Italian attacks continue on Marseille, crippling the troops there. We'll see if they're actually able to do anything there. The Italians are trying to break out of Arabisabah, and then some German paratroopers are landing as well. So total Allied breakthrough, or total Axis breakthrough in France, although that was to be expected. Okay. Various troop movements. They're moving an army south to help toward Pao Tao. Or not Pao Tao. What is that? Pakoi? And various units are moving around in the Mediterranean as well. Fifth Army of France surrenders. France surrenders? What? Oh, they took Paris. No! They got in there. Germany enhances its naval facilities at St. Nazaire. I thought I had withstood the attack for one more turn. God damn it. Third Republic is abolished as Marshal Pétain becomes the head of Vichy France, the Vichy France state. Algeria declares loyalty to Vichy France. Tunisia declares loyalty to Vichy France. Syria declares loyalty to Vichy France. French West Africa declares loyalty to Vichy France. French Equatorial Africa declares neutrality. French Polynesia declares neutrality. Franco swings toward the Axis on the fall of France. I mean, Franco was already fascist, right? U.S. begins Lend-Lease to the UK. Great. Victorious German troops march through Paris and the Channel Islands. UK prepares for a possible Axis invasion. Admiral Canaris and Air General Wolfram von Richthofen visit Spain. Spanish forces enter the International Protectorate of Tangier. The fall of France enables Spain to export Wolfram and other German goods to Germany, or other goods to Germany. Okay. Well, the question now is, do we have the strength to withstand a potential German naval invasion of England? I hope so. Jaguars sunk. Did they really take... Like, how did... I didn't think they actually even attacked the city of Paris. For as long as the enemy hold all the following locations, we must ensure that we have at least 3 or more units within 10 hexes of Birmingham. Paris, Brest, Brussels, Cherbourg, Le Havre, and Hamburg. If we do not do so, then fear of an invasion will cause our national morale to fall by 500 points per turn. Keep at least 3 or more units within 10 hexes of Birmingham until an invasion of Europe has been successfully launched. Lord Halifax. Although the new French government has signed an armistice with the enemy and withdrawn from the war, not all French soldiers have given up the fight. A small number, led by General Charles de Gaulle, intend to continue the struggle from exile as a free French. Should we support de Gaulle and through this action offer hope to all those in France, indeed the whole world, who wish to continue the fight until Europe is free of the evil menace of Nazism? Supporting the Free French will only cost us 30 MPPs and will enable us to prepare operations to prevent the Vichy fleet from falling into Axis hands. Why would we ever say no? Saying no and recognizing Vichy France will be seen as a sign of weakness in both Britain and the USA. It would therefore cause national morale to fall by 1,000 points, and isolationists in the USA will gain a swing. Why would you ever say yes? That's what I don't understand. It's like, these are like difficulty questions. Do we want to make the game more difficult for you just for the sake of it? Vichy France distances itself from Britain's support for Charles de Gaulle. The Free French seize power in French Equatorial Africa. The Triomphe is seized at Plymouth and given to the Free French Navy. Hey, General Leclerc forms Forces Frances Liberales. Some important aircraft orders have been placed by our country by the French government are nearing completion. Obviously, this cannot be delivered to France now that it has fallen, so we can either use them to supply much-needed aircraft to the UK and Canada, or we can use them to equip our own air force. If we give them to the UK and Canada, the UK will receive a tactical bomber unit, and Canada a maritime bomber unit. Delivering them will cost 25 MPPs. If we keep them, we will receive a tactical bomber unit and a medium bomber unit. Why would we say saying yes is a good way to rapidly increase British and Canadian air strength, and the U.S. should be able to replace the delivered aircraft quickly once her effort economy starts. Okay, obviously. All right, so more bombers. Huzzah! Meanwhile, the Canadian First Corps is arriving in Halifax. The USSR is getting a mechanized and an engineer unit. Nice. So that will help us fill out the defensive line here. First engineers. All right. So just 1, 2, 3 more units to close off that line, although obviously we need more than just that. We need some level of defense and depth. All right, so Britain's going to reinforce this fighter unit here to max strength. So we've got 3 fighter units at max strength. We have, let's also reinforce this bomber unit. So we've got tactical bombers here and here. Move these guys to the southern coast. I think we'll also move some of our fleet back into home waters. Certainly these guys who have been seriously damaged. Carrier back. So all of our ports in the channel are covered. Move this guy back to Waterford. Let's also bring these battleships down a little bit. Let's move him to Ambrose so he can repair. This guy to Cromarty so he can repair. We're going to move this heavy cruiser south. So it's closer to the channel. We're going to reinforce the aircraft on this aircraft carrier to max strength. So we've reinforced our aircraft and this carrier. We've also reinforced various aircraft units in England so that if they do attack, that we are better suited to defend. Okay. We're going to transport this garrison unit in Northern Ireland to England. Should be no problem having a large number of troops near Birmingham to prevent invasion invasion fears. I'm going to put this garrison unit near the coast. Okay. We'll reinforce this destroyer to full strength. Alright, so hopefully that's getting us ready for an invasion. That's pretty much all the money we have to spend for the British. Go ahead and bombard these guys. Looks like we have 2 more shells. I wonder if you have 10 supply if you always have 2 shells. Go ahead and use tactical bombers against Tobruk. They reinforced with 2. So the bombers will reinforce level 1. And then maybe we'll slowly reduce these guys? I don't know. We'll see. Pulling these guys back. Alright, so we attack Tobruk from that direction as well. Their entrenchments are at 0. The morale is low, so hopefully we can take Tobruk soon. Meanwhile, we're attacking, I think. Well, I guess maybe not. We have an army here, but it doesn't look like it's going to do... Oh, it does do a little bit of damage. Meanwhile, these guys still have a little bit of entrenchments, so these attacks at least will replace that. We did 2 damage to the Italians in Ethiopia. We also reduced their fortifications to 0, so hopefully that means next turn we'll be able to really crush them. Okay, meanwhile we've got these South African forces that continue to move via sea toward the British Isles. Put them... I'd like to put them in a port, a friendly port, but it doesn't look like there are any, so I guess we'll just sail them north and hope there's no German submarines between us and them. They should make it there next turn. That'll be another corps of infantry in England to prevent the invasion. Meanwhile, the French, do they get any okay, so the Free French looks like they have to pull their soldiers from the British income, which is fine. Okay. India continues to remain uninvolved. Must be nice. Come on, you guys. Doing no damage. Just chilling. Alright, so let's see what we want to do in China. These troops have suffered really badly. We probably need to replace them with fresh troops. So maybe we pull these guys back, move these guys, an army into that headquarters, into that fortification. Swing these guys around. Nice. Did a little bit of damage to that. Oh shit, didn't mean to click that. Oh well. Okay, so for the Chinese now, let's... Well, I don't want to reinforce, I want to upgrade them. It's only 15 to upgrade units to the new level 1 infantry weapons. That'll give us a... not an advantage, but it certainly will help us. So as many units as we can upgrade as possible. Looks like it's 25 for an army to upgrade, and it's 15 for a corps. So every unit that can upgrade, I will do it, with the exception of this guy who needs reinforcements more than anything. Looks like you can only upgrade if you aren't adjacent to an enemy unit. So we can't upgrade everybody. Garrison upgrades will probably be even more important. They only cost 10, but given that they're weaker to begin with, if we can upgrade them, that'll be helpful also. Troops in Changsha need to upgrade also. And I think that about does it for the upgrades. I can't afford any more. So we obviously didn't get everybody upgraded, not even close. Still, we made some progress there. So the Chinese theater is dealt with, I think. The Americans, we're going to continue focusing on research more than anything. We've done... What do anti-tank do? Anti-tank units, attack value... Yeah, we don't have anti-tank units. I rarely buy anti-tank units. The Americans don't have a ton of excess. Alright, so we spent another however much, and we're almost maxed out for research and development for the Americans. The Russians have 100 MPPs remaining. I'm kind of tempted to buy some new units with the Russians with those 100 MPPs. Maybe a couple of garrisons. We can afford 2, I think. And we'll put those on the border just to act as buffers to eat up some German attacks in the first months of the war, first week of the war. Probably put one at Balotosk, put one at Kaunas. I'd love to put a garrison in every one of these cities here. Again, just to slow them down, even if it just takes one attack for them to get wiped out. Anything we can do to slow the enemy down, I think, is beneficial. France is gone. The Italian army at Tobruk is surrounded. We're going to pull these carriers back into the Suez where they're safe-ish. Okay. Just trying to keep them safe there. Obviously, the Germans will probably attack the Balkans next turn. I think we already pulled these ships back. Meanwhile, the Canadian troops, there are some new Canadian troops. Can we fly these guys anywhere? No, we'd have to operate them. All right, we'll at least get the Canadian destroyers. Enemy contact! German submarines! Holy shit, they lost 5. Whoa! That was a bloody encounter. 5 and 5? Can't reach there. Can't transport there. Alright, I guess we can also spend a few points for the Americans reinforcing some of their units to get them to full strength. Alright, so that fighter unit's almost full strength. The Army, or the Corps in Washington is full strength. Boston's full strength. New York is not. West Coast, we've got full strength naval units. 3 carriers and a battleship. Meanwhile, the fleet at Pearl Harbor is basically nothing. I pulled everything back to the mainland U.S., mainly with the hope of avoiding a Pearl Harbor type catastrophe. And then you can see here we've got these ships all in the bay near San Francisco. The 3 carriers somewhat safe in there. The battleship blocking the way along with the destroyer. And I think that'll do it for that. Okay. Just trying to see if there's anything else that makes sense. Oh, wait. I'll take 2 to 1. And they didn't even take any damage. Huzzah for that. I don't know why these Japanese troops here seem to always just get lit up by our troops. Have these guys built a new fortification yet? Fortify! We'll build a 3-way fortification here, and that'll kind of gear us back toward Sian, and then maybe we'll build up north through the mountains toward Yaku. We haven't really had to deal with the Chinese communists either because there's really been no threat. Okay, so these guys are in fortifications. Stronger troops in any event. Everybody who I can, I'm going to upgrade to the level 1 infantry. That should even the playing field with the Japanese a little bit. Although the Japanese are still going to be more experienced than us. Diplomacy I've really not been spending any money on. That's probably a bit of a mistake. If we take a look at the diplomacy map, Spain is 40%, 47% toward the Axis. Hungary is 85%. Yugoslavia is 45%, but I think there's a coup there that'll happen that'll prevent them from joining. Anybody else close? The U.S. is actually closer to war with the Germans than the USSR right now. India is only 25%. I really need to spend some money, but that's a lot of money to spend to try and swing India toward us. Bulgaria is also almost joining the Axis. Burma's close to joining the Allies, 65%. Greece 35%, Finland 24%. Just East Indies 25% toward the Japanese. Romania is 63% toward the Axis. So, yeah. We'll have to see how that all plays out. The next turn will bring us into October of 1940. This is going to be another short video, guys. These videos are all lasting 20 plus minutes, but they're not quite long enough. They're not short enough to do 2 turns, but they're not long enough to really do 1 turn. So I kind of get stuck between. But I think we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, please leave your thoughts below, and I'll catch up with you guys next time. Until then, this is the Historical Gamer saying, I wish France hadn't fallen. That caught me by surprise. It must have been a national morale or something defeat, because we had an army in Paris, and I didn't see them get attacked once. But alas, my strategy failed. Nonetheless, England, 3 fighter units, 2 tactical bomber units, 1 strategic bomber unit, and 2 aircraft carriers. Hopefully, along with the Royal Navy, that's enough to withdraw or resist a German amphibious assault. We will see in our next video. Until next time, though, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm out.